The Defence Secretary, John Healey, is going to meet his allied counterparts today following a breakthrough in talks with the US on security guarantees for Ukraine. His proposals include, the proposals include NATO-like security guarantees under which the US and European allies would commit to acting if Ukraine were attacked again after a ceasefire. Here's President Trump again speaking to White House reporters after joining discussions in Berlin by phone.
We had very long and very good talks. And again, I think things are going along pretty well. And I think we're closer now. And they will tell you that they're closer now. We had numerous conversations with President Putin of Russia. And I think we're closer now than we have been ever.
Well, the Times columnist Edward Lucas joins us now. Edward, good morning.
Morning, Hugo.
Thanks for being with us. Is this a strong security commitment that the US is offering? Is it the strongest one that the US has offered to Ukraine?
No.
Right.
I mean, it's a kind of form of words from the Trump administration. There's one of the negotiating documents had a paragraph about America monitoring the ceasefire, but that's not at all the same as having a foreign military force there that can actually defend Ukraine if the Russians come back for second helpings. And that's the big question. The Europeans can't do it. They just don't have the military mass, the numbers of soldiers and vehicles. You need hundreds of thousands of people if you're really going to defend Ukraine properly. Or you can do it with a tripwire force, some air defenses and bits and pieces, but with the firm promise that if that tripwire is tripped, we then go to war with Russia. That's kind of option two. And I don't think either of those are credible without the United States, and I'm not sure with Trump in charge that they're credible with the United States.
Is the position that America is in at the moment, that Trump is in at the moment, that he wants to sort of imply that he's giving some kind of security guarantee to Ukraine without actually binding himself to anything?
One of the problems with the Trump administration is that the words of the president have become greatly devalued. We see an awful lot of them sprayed over social media, often quite, putting it politely, loosely phrased. And this is not the sort of thing that you bet your country on. And we've seen with NATO, which is America's most important defense alliance, how very close we've come to the Americans saying we're done. Partly for good reasons. They want the Europeans to do more, so there's a bit of chivying going on. But if you are proposing to go to bed tonight as a Ukrainian leader, safe in the knowledge that your country is protected by the most powerful country in the world, just having Trump's word for it, I think, is not going to put you into your pajamas.
I mean, the fact that NATO membership is a red line for Putin, if they can find some way of basically giving Ukraine that guarantee which comes short of NATO membership, could that be the way forwards?
I think, in a way, NATO is a bit of a red herring because NATO is no longer what it was. NATO is fundamentally a kind of institutional means of funneling American combat power into the defense of Europe in a way that makes adversaries think, don't touch Europe. And I just don't think we're in that era anymore. I don't think, from northern Norway through to Turkey, I don't think anyone really thinks that in the event of a big crisis, you invoke Article 5, and next thing is you have American F-35s blasting your opponents to smithereens. And just imagine the phone going in the White House in the middle of the night and the American Supreme Commander saying, I need to start killing Russians now. Is that okay, sir? And the Commander-in-Chief saying, yeah, go ahead. I think so. I think, in a way, NATO's over, the institution's there, but the political will behind it has gone. And so having some sort of other arrangement is quite sensible, but I just don't think the Europeans are up to providing it. So the Ukrainians are basically buying a cardboard box with nothing in it.
Well, look, Volodymyr Zelensky has been addressing the Dutch parliament. Here he is speaking a few moments ago.
We are now in the midst of the most intense and focused negotiations for peace since the beginning of this war, for true lasting peace. And we are not talking about a pause or a temporary uncertain solution. We are working closely with partners to finally end this Russian war against Ukraine.
Well, so, I mean, Edward Lucas is still with me. Edward, I mean, you've got Zelensky saying that sounding like they're closer to a deal than ever before. You've got that coming out of the White House as well. Could there actually be some momentum, even if we don't quite understand the shape it's going to take as yet?
Well, I think everyone's trying to keep Trump engaged and hope that if it all goes wrong, that the blame will land with Putin. And the danger is that Trump blames the Europeans or the Ukrainians, or maybe both, and says to the Europeans, make the Ukrainians sign up. And that's extremely dangerous because you could actually end up busting NATO from through that, or what's left of it.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's trying to make it look good, but in the knowledge that in the end Putin may well, I think most likely, will simply say, this isn't what I'm fighting for. I want something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Edward Lucas, Times columnist. Thank you very much indeed. And there'll be more on this story throughout the day here on Times Radio.
We are now in the midst of the most intense and focused negotiations for peace since the beginning of this war, for true lasting peace. And we are not talking about a pause or a temporary uncertain solution. This Sunday and Monday, in Berlin, we held really intensive talks with President Trump's team and with Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, others, members of the team, and we're working in a great detail on documents that could stop the war and guarantee security. This is very important. And every single detail matters. Why? Because not a single detail must become a reward for Russia's aggression. If the aggressor receives a reward, he starts to believe that war pays off. And that is why justice must be central to ending this war. Please support this approach. Justice must not be pushed to the margins of diplomacy. And there was too little justice for Moldova, it's true, too little. And for Syria, and for many, many other countries, those wars dragged on. And today the problems are so difficult to solve. And we must show through Ukraine that Europe and the United States of America are capable of delivering real results in securing peace. And when the guns stay silent, when the drones stop killing, the law must still speak. Russian root causes should be returned to Russia, and it cannot be that war criminals travel freely across Europe or the world as if they were tourists. It cannot be that those who killed are suddenly treated as respectable partners. That is why sanctions matter, and that is why conventions and mechanisms of international justice exist and must work. Alongside diplomacy, defense support for Ukraine, support for our resilience, I ask you, please continue supporting efforts to ensure legal accountability for the aggressor. So no matter how difficult it may be, and no matter how long it takes Russian war criminals must be held accountable. And the Russian state must be held responsible for the crime of aggression.